Ballyclare District Historical Memorial Association. Republican Memorials. No one can imagine how it must feel to have lost a loved one, or to have been maimed, losing limbs, or living with the scars and trauma that the IRA inflicted on the Protestant community. But I find it truly abhorrent that the very people who have suffered and are still suffering to this day are being told it's time to move on. Put a line under it. Focus on peace and moving forward. Stop living in the past. Why should we forget the innocents that were blown up, shot, kidnapped and tortured by the IRA? Sinn Féin IRA can erect intimidating statues on council-owned cemeteries. The GAA have many memorial cups and trophies in their honour, and even children's play parks are named after IRA terrorists, ceremonially slapping every innocent person that died by their gun and bomb in the face. Some of these memorial sites are on house and executive property and erected using money from the European Peace Fund. So many children murdered, and yet none of the victims have a play park named after them, nor a trophy, nor a cup. Our history is not there to be whitewashed, buried or erased. The only way to stop the horrors that have happened from being repeated is to be fully informed of the truths of the past. The Joe Cahill Under-12s Cup. This man had been sentenced to death in 1942 for his part in the gun attack against 4 RUC officers, which resulted in the murder of Constable Patrick Murphy. It was with the support of the American State Department and the Vatican that this sentence was changed to life imprisonment, only for him to be released in 1945 under an IRA ceasefire. He was one of the founders of the Provisional IRA and commander of its Belfast Brigade. The instigator in the beginning of the bombing campaigns leading to the Troubles, he was the IRA's Chief of Staff in 1972 and had dealings with the American No-Raid Group and with the Libyan leader Gaddafi in importing guns and ammunitions for the IRA. He was caught importing over 5 tons of weaponry, receiving only a 3-year sentence. He stated in court that, "If I am guilty of any crime, it is that I did not succeed in getting the contents of the Claudia into the hands of the freedom fighters in this country." The Paddy Kelly Memorial Cup. Joining the Provisional IRA in the 70s, becoming East Tyrone's Brigade Commander in 1985, one of the most active groups in Northern Ireland. The unit under his command targeted isolated RUC stations. In 1987, he was shot and killed along with the rest of his unit. 3 of them had driven a stolen digger carrying 400 pounds of Semtex into Loch Hall RUC barracks, whilst the others got out of the car and started shooting into the station after the bomb had exploded. The SAS, forewarned and positioned, immediately fired back, killing all 8 of the terrorists. It's hard to believe the families of the terrorists fought for compensation, all claiming unlawful killing. Mairead Farrell, a girls' camogie championship played in Tullysarin, County Armagh, was named after this IRA volunteer. She spent 10 years in jail for planting the bomb at the Conway Hotel in Dunmurry. She was killed in 1988 by the SAS in Gibraltar, along with Sean Savage and Daniel McCann. They had planned to drive a car filled with 84 kilos of Semtex from Spain to a busy town in Gibraltar during a ceremonial changing of the guard. Their targets being the band and the guard of the 1st Battalion of the Royal Anglian Regiment. The 10-foot statue of an INLA terrorist. A masked and armed statue erected in a local cemetery is said to be in memory of the 1916 Easter Rising. This extremely threatening INLA statue looks over the graveyard and the graves of the dead soldiers and civilians that these terrorists killed. People should be allowed to mourn at the graves of their loved ones without a 10-foot ominous statue of a terrorist overlooking them, gloating in the face of their grief. The Kevin Lynch Hurling Club. The Dungiven hurling team renamed their club after this Irish Republican member of the INLA. In 1977, he was convicted and sentenced to 10 years in prison for conspiring to take guns from the security forces, for carrying out a punishment shooting, and for stealing shotguns. Jared and Martin Hart. There is a GAA Cup named after these two IRA volunteers. They, along with Brian Mullen, had planned to murder a part-time UDR soldier on his delivery route from work. They were armed with AK-47s, and their plan failed as SAS had received information of their plan, and a shootout occurred. All three assailants lost their lives, and their families fought in court for compensation, claiming unlawful killing. Michael McVerry. This IRA volunteer has a GAA Cup named after him. McVerry was shot while planting 2 bombs at an RUC station when a gun battle ensued. The terrorists managed to drive off, hijack a further 2 cars, set alight a customs tower before they took McVerry to a hospital, but he was dead on arrival. McVerry had also been part of a 6-man armed unit that had held a family hostage. They beat the father and son while waiting on his other son, a part-time UDR soldier, coming home from work. As the terror group left the traumatised family home, a car turned the corner and, thinking it was their target, shot into the car, killing the elderly neighbour. McVerry was easily identified as he only had one hand, the other he had blown off testing grenades. Raymond McCreish, a member of the Provisional IRA that has a children's play park named after him. McCreish was a part of a 4-man unit that had planned to ambush a British Army observational post. As they approached their target, they were spotted by British paratroopers. A gun battle followed, with McCreish and Paddy Quinn soon surrendering. McCreish was found to be in possession of a rifle that was used in the Kingsmill massacre, where 10 Protestant civilians were shot dead. He was sentenced to 14 years for the attempted murder of British soldiers, possession of a rifle and ammunition, and a further 5 years for his IRA membership. Martin Hershen. There is an annual celebration and a memorial cup in this IRA volunteer's name. He had been sentenced for his role in the planting of 3 landmine bombs, receiving a 20-year sentence. Jim Lockery and Sean Campbell. The Lockery-Campbell Park has its grounds in Drummondtree and an annual GAA Cup played in their honour. These 2 IRA volunteers died when the bomb they were planting exploded prematurely. Campbell's brothers are also terrorists, with Michael being convicted in Lithuania for the purchase of weaponry to supply the real IRA, and Liam was identified as one of the bombers in the 1998 Omagh bombing, killing 29 people. There are over 100 memorials illegally sited on house and executive property, and requests to have them removed are largely ignored. Memorials should be for the victims that were murdered.